and it's a crime, and anybody who does that is a criminal and should be locked up. However, I feel there is deeper reasons behind why these buildings may have been burnt down. So, for me, I grew up raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Anybody who knows me well would know this. But I really don't like to talk about my experience too much. I left for my own reasons, and I know a lot of people that are still there, and I wish them peace and love. However, I left for what I feel are good reasons. And I've been toying with this whole thing. I wasn't sure if I wanted to talk about it, but I feel compelled to speak about it. And when I look at the whole issue, I really think it comes down to two main points. And those points are the fight between principles and policies or rules. And in general, this is kind of my problem with evangelical or more extreme religion, is that I find we have these policy or principles, pardon me, that are timeless principles. The Ten Commandments, the laws of Ma'at, there's Buddhist principles. Every religion has major foundational principles. However, over time and through the manipulation of man, somehow these principles turn into policies and rules and dictates, and the environment can become quite controlling. Now, when we look at the witnesses, the Jehovah's Witness faith, they have one particular belief that I don't think many people would really know about or understand. And this belief is the idea that we call theocratic warfare. What theocratic warfare essentially means is, it could be summed up like this: by any means necessary. So, by any means necessary, you are to push forward your belief system into the world. In their mind, it's to save the world, but nevertheless, you push forward your belief system and you hold true to your doctrinal principles, no matter what. No matter what. No matter if that violates the law, no matter if that violates persons, no matter if it violates, it doesn't matter. Those principles and those rules, sorry, they're not principles, they're rules, are to be followed and stuck through with and preached by any means necessary. And so, when we have policies that are pushed forward by any means necessary, whether hurtful or not, inevitably, you're going to have people who end up hurt. And when we start examining those policies, I think the most hurtful of the policies is this idea that we call shunning. I don't really refer to it as shunning. I refer to it as family manipulation. And this is the idea that anybody who does not share, or put it this way, anybody who is part of the religion or part of the congregation and decides that maybe they don't believe in something, or maybe that this isn't for them, or that they're troubled by some of the doctrines, that individual is summarily shunned or instructed by the congregation or the elders of the congregation to not be associated with. They're removed. And so if you're a witness and your whole family is witnesses, and you decide, this isn't for me anymore, and you decide that you want to leave that, you will likely lose connection with your family, or lose at least normal connection with your family, and probably most of your friends. If all your friends are witnesses, so you risk losing your entire connected life of everybody that you knew, your whole community, if you choose to move away from this belief system. And this is a policy. This is a policy. And naturally, we have a lot of people who are hurt by this policy. They say that one of the most hurtful things you can do to somebody is isolate them, remove them. People will do whatever it takes to avoid being isolated or removed from their friends, family, and community. And so this is one of the most devastating things that you can do to somebody. Now, when we look at the idea of theocratic warfare and the way that it's used, and we think about the idea of by any means necessary, a person who's not a witness would say, well, they're not really playing fair. They're not giving people a fair opportunity to make personal decisions for yourself. They make those decisions, and if you disagree, then you're out. You're either in the club or you're out. It's that simple. And so we go back to these fires. There's a lot of hurt ex-witnesses out there. There's a lot of heartbroken ex-witnesses out there. And like, I was listening to a psychologist discuss anger. And basically they say there's two kinds of anger. One kind of anger is actually quite good. It can be motivating for change. And this is the anger where people have had enough, where people are fed up, and through their anger, they demand change. Things like the civil rights movement, women's rights, voting rights, native rights here in Canada, that people had anger that led to change. But then there's another kind of anger. And this anger is the most dangerous thing we have on this planet. And this is an anger that basically comes from hopelessness. And the hopelessness is a point where people realize that no change will happen. And it's in this form of anger where the most dangerous behaviors come out. Terrorist activities come out. Where people have basically lost all hope. And so they don't care anymore. And so they're willing to hurt other people, hurt themselves. And so, in my opinion, we don't know. The issue is under investigation, but there's a very strong likelihood that these fires are the product of a disgruntled, angry ex-witness who's going around and out of anger burning kingdom halls down. Now, there's that's my proposition of a possibility. That's not definitely what's happening, but I would urge those who are still involved, and I would urge those outside the organization to analyze the situation objectively and think about, do these policies hurt people? Do they hurt you? Do you find yourself involved in a situation where a policy is making a personal decision for you that you should be making based off principles? Do you find yourself in a situation where someone else is making your decisions for you on who you can associate with and why you can associate with them? You may find yourself in this situation. You should ask why. And is it right? And what happens when this is the path that organizations, that people take? There's nothing wrong with shunning somebody or identifying somebody that you don't want to be associated with. People have a lot of good reasons. If you identify, oh, this is a toxic person, maybe they have toxic behavior traits, and you say, I don't want to have anything to do with this person because they're going to be detrimental to my lifestyle and who I am, what I'm trying to do. However, if the only reason that you are now shunning somebody or told that you have to shun somebody is because of a policy or a disagreement over a minor interpretation of scripture, that's called manipulation. That's called somebody else is manipulating how we are able to interact with each other. So I think that there's a good possibility that this is what we're dealing with when we look at these fires. And the reason I wanted to address this issue is because I think it's only a matter of time before the doo-doo hits the fan, if you know what I'm saying. Because you can only hurt people for so long before there's a reaction. For every action, there's a reaction. And so long as policies are left in place that separate families, that separate people from their ability to think for themselves, for their ability to make their own decisions, so long as policies like that are in place, and people are being hurt by those policies, we are going to see more incidents likely like this. And it's sad because eventually somebody is probably going to get hurt, and that's not what we want to see. No matter what people believe, no one's lives should be put in jeopardy. But this is the exact issue that we're dealing with, is people's lives. And the argument for a lot of ex-witnesses is that their lives have been drastically changed or hurt to the point where you have an enormous number of suicides that come out of this situation, where people literally can't even live anymore with themselves because they're so hurt that they've been separated from their families. They're so devastated, that they just don't want to live anymore. And so, this is a situation that only us, and when I say us, we the people, can solve. Everybody is responsible for their own decisions. And so we need to ask ourselves, are these belief systems helping to build up this world, or are they destroying this world? Are these belief systems bringing a cure to the issue of peace that we have in this world, or are they stirring the pot and causing discord? As for me, I think theocratic warfare is just as harmful as physically burning down someone's building. Because whether you're doing it physically or whether you're doing it mentally, you're still hurting somebody, and that's wrong. So, some foods for thought for today. I wish peace and love on anybody, whether you are a witness or not. No one should ever have to worry about whether or not their place of worship will be burnt down, but no one should also equally ever have to worry about being shunned from their entire family, or being judged or labeled or scrutinized just for having their own beliefs, having their own independent thoughts and opinions. And as a matter of fact, we should encourage each other, and we should seek out people who are standing on their own 2 feet with their own beliefs, their own opinions, and learning how to believe and think and make decisions for themselves. So that's all for today. Peace and love, family. Until next time, I'm out.